L5 podcast. We are back again with another full movie episode review. This week, we decided to do something that's a little bit topical, a little bit on everybody's mind. A brand new Amazon original, which is coming to America.
It is so good to see you.
Well, I be damn. Look who done come up in here.
Hey, escuta quem tem Ebola.
Famine and Blood Diamond.
Nelson Mandela and Winnie.
Those hungry babies with the flies on the face.
Hey, that's too much. Now, you stepped over the line. Now, we won't be talking that kind of shit about the hungry babies. You're going to have to get out of my chair.
Politically incorrect.
So what you doing back here, Hotel Rwanda?
I'm back. This came out this past Friday, and basically has the entire cast of the original Coming to America back on screen. So who wants to start off with, did you guys do the 17-minute review? We did this as a homework. We didn't watch it together. Did you do the 17-minute review?
I forgot.
So let's just get into it. So who wants to kick off the discussion about Coming to America 2? What your thoughts were?
I'll go. Okay. Speaking of the 17 minutes, that was the best part of the movie. The first 17 minutes. But seriously though, I love the fact. So like you said, they brought back all the characters and stuff, of course, all those that are still with us. And I think those of us who have seen the original movie, that was one of the big things that we were looking forward to and how they were going to do this. Eddie Murphy's character has, at this point that we know of, all girl children, and of course everything is very, and I think this is one of the things I really liked about the movie. It's overdone, it's rich, it's exactly what I feel like it's supposed to be for, you know, a kingdom, right? The clothes are beautiful, just like how everybody just acts and the things that they do. That part of it I really did like. And so initially we see Eddie Murphy and his daughters outside fighting, and when I say fighting, practicing, right? And I like that because, you know, some people will be like, oh, you don't show that to girls, and I'm gonna get into this later, but you know, he's teaching the girls the way that, you know, you need to learn how to be a warrior, I guess, on some level, and fight, and things like that. And then they have James Earl Jones, and I'm assuming we're doing spoilers here.
Yep.
Warning.
So he's there. I felt like they were going to kill him off, and in essence, that's what they were planning to do. But before he dies, he decides he wants to have his funeral and be alive for it. Which concept-wise, I thought was a little silly, but I didn't care. Like, you know, whatever. But it actually ended up, that gave them the opportunity, I feel like, to do that big scene where we had the African dancers and stuff from the original Coming to America. That's what this was used for, in my personal opinion. I felt like that's what they were doing. So they had the dancers, they had the singers, they and introducing people, and that's where we saw again, people we've seen before. We had some new faces, some I thought were funny. And for me, that whole scene, the best part was probably like the whole Morgan Freeman thing. Morgan Freeman, I just hear him talk, I don't know. I want him to do my funeral too. It's just, you know, the voice is iconic. I don't know what to say. But anyway, so just saying this to say, the first 17 minutes, I was initially, when we went into it, I was really enjoying it. I thought it was fun and funny. I laughed.
What I liked about those first scenes is that I really felt like we're going to spend a lot more time there than we got to spend in the first movie. And we did. We got to spend a lot more time there than in New York. And I thought that was great. I watched it with one of my kids, and we actually watched the first one also together because, you know, I wanted my kid to be able to catch the references for the first movie. So most of the references they took care of in flashbacks, and there were a lot of flashbacks. So you really didn't have to have seen the first one, but there's young people are probably the only people who who haven't seen the first one, and so so they didn't see it. But I had a blast watching both of these movies with my kid, because and afterwards listening to Eddie Murphy on the circuit doing interviews, because there were a couple of things that he said that were that the first movie created a cult following, and Halloween, there's places where people dress up as the characters, and they've made a huge cultural impact, and there's an even a restaurant becomes McDowell's, and there's all of this stuff that goes on and that's why they really decided they really wanted to do this again. But one of the things that I thought was funny that he said about people's experience watching these films is he loves it when nobody notices that he and Arsenio are playing these other characters. And I thought that was really weird, because to me it's so obvious, right? That they're doing that, because we've we're so familiar with Eddie Murphy doing all these characters with the heavy makeup, but he loves doing that. And so that was my experience with my kid. At the end of the movie, when they did the credits, she had no idea that Eddie and Arsenio were doing those other characters. It was hilarious. I could not believe that she was fooled like that. But that's the kind of thing that is so fantastic. And so with that, when we saw Coming to America, she said, "How are all those old guys still alive?" So that was my punchline for the whole story. How are those old guys still alive? And then because she had to remember, it's like, oh yeah, that's them. And then with Morgan Freeman, it's so funny. She said, "I wonder if that's actually Morgan Freeman." And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" And she's like, "Well, is it Morgan Freeman playing Morgan Freeman?" I'm like, "Yeah." That's how awesome this place is, that they got Morgan Freeman for real to be there. And it was just so fun to just kind of experience that with somebody who's younger.
But that's the one thing I said to Corey, especially somebody who hadn't even seen the first movie. Like, haven't seen the first movie, I think our opinions are going to be totally different than somebody who may have this movie their first experience. Because I think definitely, and I know we'll talk more about this, but I saw a lot of this movie being a repeat of a lot of stuff that we had initially. If you've never seen that, it's new to you. Your feelings about that will probably be different than somebody who may have already seen it.
Yeah. And that was the great thing about it, is that at least the first 17 minutes that we're discussing, is you're right. When you hear Morgan Freeman's voice, I just thought it was just going to be a narration. I was just like, oh, they're just going to have him narrate this part. So then when you see him on screen, I just died laughing. And I was like, this is great, because I don't ever remember seeing someone like James Earl Jones and Morgan Freeman in the movie, in a movie together. Those are people who are, it's just like, them based off of their voice, their presence, they have this presence just from their voice just alone. So when you hear both of them together in a scene and then see them together in a scene, I thought that was just so much fun and great to see.
Scratching at the door.
Yeah, I agree with you. Everything that both of you guys were saying about the first 17 minutes of the opening scenes, I thought they were fun. I like the introduction of Wesley Snipes and talking about his sister and what happened to her after Eddie, turned her down, and she's still barking like a dog and looks crazy. It was great to see her, and the intro kind of starts just like the original one does too, where the flower people, they're coming in there and doing the flowers thing. Is like, "Good morning, Father." But it's like, "Oh, it's your anniversary." Yes, it is our anniversary. Same type of opening scenes and stuff like that. It started out a lot of fun. And I like the cameos with In Vogue and Salt and Pepper. I thought that was
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, I liked it when it started.
So before we get into negatives, do we want to just relay on what we liked first?
Well, what did you think in the opening part, Stacey? Did you have something you want to add about that?
Actually, when I first started watching it, and actually overall, I mean, I was gonna say much negative because it was just nostalgia overload. I just like that.
Oh, good, because me too.
It was just. But when they first start off, and I was like, oh, as soon as I heard the music, disclosure there, I was watching it on my tablet while I'm working. So I was like, oh my gosh.
We won't tell.
Yeah. And I'm sure none of my coworkers subscribe here. So it took me longer to watch it because I was just like, okay, and then I'll pause it and then I'll come back or whatever. But every time I watched it or heard the music, I was like, oh my gosh, it's gonna be and you saw the flower rose petal thrower, which it's like she's the original and now she's the head rose petal thrower, and it was just I just really enjoyed it was just really great to me when I started watching. I was like, okay, this is gonna be just nostalgia overload. But I was thinking, okay, when they said the country where Wesley Snipes' character's from, what was it called?
Next Door.
Land. Next Door Land. Yeah, I love that.
Next Door or something like that.
Yeah. I was like, oh my God, that's so funny.
I was like, okay, this is going to be the kind of comedy. And I was just set for it because Next Door? Really? We couldn't even come up with nothing else besides Next Door. And so that kind of just got me, okay, this is where my mind needs to be. It's like, we got Next Door. Be prepared for that kind of comedy. Be prepared for that. And I mean, everything as in the comedic parts or joke stuff, most of that stuff I was really expecting. It was like, there was nothing that was really, oh my gosh, that came from nowhere. It was like, but I still enjoyed it. And probably because I enjoyed the first one. It was just so excited to watch the second one. In the first 17 minutes, you see, his daughters and you're like, oh, good morning. And it's the same, basically same thing as the original, but instead of, it's my 21st birthday, it's our anniversary.
Right.
Good anniversary, mother and father. It was just same thing. And I just, seeing them together, Eddie's character and, seeing them and the, I guess, princess and prince, but since they're, technically at the time, the father's still alive. But it was just even watching that first, I really was really, really excited about it. Cause yes, I mean, it was one of the first movies, not the first movie, but it was one of the, I guess, first kind of movies of like that with Black people at that time that wasn't we straight up from the hood and we just struggling to make our way up. And it was just, but it was just a purely fantasy and it was Wakanda before Wakanda. I mean, I know, I guess if you read the comics, you're like, Wakanda was first, but I mean, movie-wise, it was we thought, oh gosh, Wakanda, the first thing I thought was Zamunda, and that's where that whole concept, I mean, I know it wasn't the whole concept came from that, but it was just that whole experience and just the opulence of it and the clothes. And I know this past more than 17 minutes, but was there Leslie Jones? Oh my gosh. I mean, the stuff that she was wearing when she was, I was like, gosh, you like the queen. I mean, I loved what they had her in and how her overall look in it. And when you see her in her other stuff, they never dress her like that or do anything like that. She's always, I mean, she was comedy in this one too, but it's always, I guess, a non-feminine kind of thing. And she really looked regal. And I was just, every time I saw her, I mean, I thought, gosh, she looks so nice in this. And just, you could tell it's also, to me, Black people were producing or actually in looking at the production of it because their skin looked so awesome. I mean, it was just really, really nice. No one was disappeared, in there. And so it was really nice. And speaking of, Dana with the gosh, you look like
I turned
You're
on
glowing.
lights today.
Beautiful tonight.
I know, it's just like glowing. I'm like, gosh, I feel
You're
like her.
too sweet. Thank you. But it's funny you should say that because that's exactly what I was thinking, Stacey. I was like, anybody who says that you can't like Black people right or it's hard needs to watch this movie. Also, Corey knows how I feel like about the show Insecure. That's another show that I think does a phenomenal job at lighting people of all different skin colors in a way that just makes them look beautiful. Nobody, like you said, is lost. And I totally agree with the Leslie thing. I think like there was a point I remember, and I'll probably get some of the story wrong, but I remember with her, she was going, I guess, to some major award show, and she couldn't find anybody who was willing to address her. So, a lot of famous, designers will come out and offer to dress people, but obviously she's not a size 0, and she was having a hard time finding somebody. And so like Christian Siriano, who won, I think his season of the
Project
Runway
Runway?
show. Yes.
Project Runway.
He did a dress for her. She looked gorgeous. I was like, you know what? I'm glad all those other designers passed up and you got him because he really worked with her. And I think that's what they did in this movie. They didn't just make something and be like, oh, just put that on her. I feel like they had her in mind when they did the designs. And I think that's why it worked really for her because it fit her. It was for her. She looked beautiful. I totally agree with that. I think that's that was one of the things. And like you were saying, that's the thing I like about the movie. Like my initial thought in the movie, and Corey knows this, I felt one way, but when I stepped back and I heard somewhere that I guess Eddie Murphy alluded to the fact that he was not trying to make this movie better than the original one, but he was trying to make a movie that was just entertainment. So yes, none of that struggle bus kind of stuff. We coming up, we moving up, like you said, and 10 years of slavery and all this other
Pure
stuff.
entertainment.
Good, just fun, just entertainment. And this kind of has like the whole Cosby Show thing, right? When I was there in the kingdom, I wasn't like, oh, this is weird for Black folks. No, this was normal. This is what I expected to see. This is how these people live. So I really did like that. And when I look at that, like a comment overall, I think that's really what, if I look at it from that perspective, that's really what I would want and what I feel like we need now. Cause I am tired of those. Like I go out of my way to no longer watch those types of movies because I've seen enough. Like there's enough going on in this world. I've seen enough. I need to step away from that, especially with like this whole pandemic. Like I need happiness, fun, and laugh, stuff like that.
Right.
So I do think for that purpose, this movie was lived up to what he said he wanted it to be.
Yeah, actually, when they introduced the storyline with Wesley Snipes and Next Door Landia or Next Doria, I was kind of surprised that the story might go into this, war story or something. And I'm glad they didn't, because that would have made it go off in the wrong direction, I would think. But yeah, that just that pure escape and storytelling and is all it really needed to be. That's I had a great time watching it. There were two references in it that I thought were really hilarious. I laughed out loud when I heard them, and I had to stop the movie to explain them. One was one of the characters called the other character Benson.
Oh.
I don't remember what the context was. It was like something like "get me a drink" or something. I don't know what it was, but it was something like, be my butler.
Yeah.
So I had to explain who Benson was, and then in the credits in the blooper reel, there was that moment where the prince had clipped the whiskers, the lion's whiskers. It's like, I got the lion's whiskers and you don't got any, or I got the whiskers, they're from a lion. And Eddie, I had to explain what that was from the stand-up. I got the ice cream. Yeah. It was so awesome.
Did you catch the reference of the guy who was introducing Wesley Snipes in the beginning, and he said that he was the inspiration for Mufasa. He's
Introducing Wesley Snipes?
Yeah,
Or-
he was just naming certain things about Wesley Snipes. He was like,
Okay.
the king to
Oh.
blah, 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 the next emperor to blah, blah, the inspiration for Mufasa.
Yeah.
And then there's another reference where he is trying to get the whiskers. They're doing the bait and switch thing with the lion. And when he's running away from the lion and then gets into the cage,
Mhm.
I totally thought of Timon and Pumbaa when they were running away from the hyenas and doing the bait and switch thing. And I was like, that's a total Lion King reference right there.
Yeah. I thought that was really clever. That was cool.
So what about some more positives of the film for the rest of after the first couple of minutes?
I mean, I guess for me, the biggest thing was those of us who seen the first movie, we wanted to see those characters again. So yeah, some of them theoretically should have been dead, but I was still glad to still see them.
Yeah.
And that they were there. I thought just in general, the actors and actresses, they looked amazing. Like in terms of this, because how old is this movie? Like
33 years.
30. Yeah. It's
33?
30
Like
something years.
a long time. And so when there was at one point where they showed a flashback, and I wasn't really sure if it was the original movie or if it was just them rolling, you know, how they make people
yeah.
look younger. It took me a second to figure out, wait, this was part of the original, you know? But no, I thought, I'll tell you this, at the end, and this is so insignificant, I know, but when they brought Peaches and her twin, because I have no idea, they were out on the stage, I thought that was hilarious. Like, you know, it's something that small. I was like, oh, they actually brought her and her. I don't, like I said, I have no idea what the actual names are.
Yeah.
But I was like, I thought it was funny.
I
Like,
just think all of those payoffs were so great. It's just so great. And then the other thing at the end, the sexual chocolates
Yes.
come back was just fantastic, and it was a great way to end the movie. We just had so much fun watching it.
And we said the Peaches, you know, when they brought those up, I was like, oh my God. Like, it was just that whole like, oh my gosh, they actually found those people and they brought them into the movie just for that small little cameo, but it was enough to be like, oh gosh, you know, it just really made me feel great when I watched it. And like the very end, when that character goes, reaches out, what is that, velvet? And I was like, all right, let's finish it up. And that's how, you know, because that saying or catchphrase, for a while they were saying that a lot in my high school for whatever reason. And so when one guy used to say that all the time, he like, what is that, velvet? And that just had me rolling. And I know as soon as I saw him, he did, that's like, I knew he was going to say that. But when he said it, I was still just amused because of it. And I just, like you said, the cameos, that's just really what made it. I mean, overall, the story, you knew it was coming. Okay, the daughter wasn't going to be allowed at that time, you know, to rule the kingdom, although she was the one really prepared for it. And you knew that. And all the jabs at him for just having daughters, you know, because you're not manly enough, you're manly semen, you know. And, you know, at some point, it's going to go to her. You already know that. But the fact that I like that his son, they didn't show him as, you know, a thug. You know, it's just like, okay, he does a hustle, yeah, but he's overall just a good guy. It's like nothing. There's no, when those bathers were there, he was like, Mom, you know, like, we're not supposed to do.
Let's do this.
You know, it wasn't that, because I was like, that's what no, he went, there's 3 women, and she was like, and I knew as soon
That was so great.
I knew it was like, there's a guy down there. I know it. Everybody knows it.
Only one. I think it was big enough for several. There should have been several men down there.
If he came up with more than one, that'd have been so much more awesome. That'd have been funnier. That'd be really, because I knew one person's gonna come up.
Right.
If you had 3 guys came up or something like that, then it would have been really funny to me. But I knew as soon as she was like just laying back there and just go with it. And I was like, there's somebody down there. There's someone there. But he seemed like just a nice guy. Not hard, not just, hey, I'm a nice guy trying to make a way. And I liked that. and that it showed the whole that even though he didn't know at the time who his father was and all that, he still had a family behind him. So it wasn't just him and his mom, it's him, his mom, and his uncle. I mean, it showed that to me that he had a family supporting him.
Right.
And so yeah, I would love to be king. When that when the briefcase opened up, it's like, it went from I don't need you, I hadn't used need you, and then that briefcase opened up, it's like, okay, I'll be the same way. Be like, you know what? Let's
I
go.
don't need you,
You, but if you get that ticket, I'll go out. So I really did like the overall storyline. I mean, nothing that wasn't. You see it all. You saw that it was all coming, but it still was just a joy to watch for me. Okay.
Now I want to say a couple things that kind of bothered me. First thing I want to say is because Corey mentioned it. Vanessa Bell Calloway, or is it Calloway Bell? Bell Calloway, I think. Y'all, I hate what they brought her back for. I get that that's one of the big scenes that we know from the first movie, but to bring that one back just so she could bark like a dog and not actually have a line, that kind of bothered me because she is a very, she's a well-known actress. She's not like, this, like Peaches people, or whatever. Like she has a history of, she's an actress. She's legit. So I kind of was like, I was taken back by that. I thought we could have done better by her. My overall thought is I did not like the storyline because it was a repeat of obviously kind of pretty much the first one. But here's what I thought. Because think about it, and this is what I told Corey, we are in a whole different world now. 2021 is not like it was 30 years ago. So there are things about this movie that I saw that in our current place that I felt like we should question. So first of all, why did he have to have a son at all? Like, I felt like that whole point of the son and going to America was totally unnecessary. We could have had a movie about him bringing his daughters into this because that's what he had to do. Because we all know where this was going to go. And we see this where we're like, okay, yeah, we have to turn the cheek. Now it's going to now be a daughter who's going to become queen of but we never actually see what that process is like. So when he says, it's going to be your turn to, you know what, in my mind, I'm like, realistic, what's going to happen when you die if you wait to change? The country's going to break out in war and they're not going to want her and it's going to be a hot mess. Like, you don't wait until you die and be like, I'm going to leave it to you. No, honey, today we need to start preparing for that. When you die, the country has accepted that you will be their queen. And that means I got to protect you because people don't want to kill you between now and then. I felt like there was so much more that we could have done with that than focusing on his son, because it just made me angry. Like you said, Stacey, here you have somebody who has been training her whole life to take this role. We're going to go get a kid who's scalping tickets off the side of the road in New York, doesn't even know you exist. And we think by teaching him the names of his forefathers, he's going to be ready to do something. Like, I felt like, at what point, I hope people, well, they probably don't, but we have more common sense than that now. He is not prepared. And
Right.
even in the little bit he doesn't seem serious enough to be prepared to run a country.
Right.
Whereas the daughter was already there,
Right.
Dad could have died tomorrow and she probably could have handled it. Whereas this, and so it pissed me off because this is not the world I feel like we live in now. Like, we feel like, hey, common sense tells me it should be my daughter. What am I going to do now to make sure that that happens and that she's protected until she gets that opportunity? I feel like that could have been a whole different, and it still could have been funny, but I think retelling the same story, it felt sloppy.
Well, on the whole thing about the daughter needing a son, it's like it's 2020, but if you think of it as not as being an American or westernized country versus there. I mean, I'm watching right now on Netflix one of these Indian drama thing, one of these India stories, and I've actually been there, and it's in a lot of ways a very modern country, but at the same time, there are still things that people think about when it comes to having a girl versus a boy and all that. So, I mean, even though, yes, it's 2021, they here and there, I mean, it's 2021, it doesn't mean that's going to be how people think about it in different countries.
But do you think, because I agree with you, but then that would lead me to say that him acting like he was going to make a change really didn't make any sense. Like, I felt like they only did that to appease the 2021 people.
Right.
It's for real. Y'all are not going to have a woman as your next president. I mean, here in the Western area, we've struggled with that. So if you're not at that, is it realistic to even be talking about that? You know, it's like, it's kind of like y'all brought it up. So now you need to address it. And
Well, that's what Coming to America 3 is all about.
No, we don't need that.
Well, I think, Dana, the other thing about that is that, you know, Zamunda is supposed to be this beautiful, magical fantasy place, and it should be better than reality. It should be better than reality. So having the expectations of them treating the daughters better than that, just right off the bat, that and doing that, he shouldn't necessarily feel tied to that traditional patriarchal tradition, because it is a fantasy. This is the idealized place. So it would be awesome if they had done that. I agree with you totally. That would, I think that would have been really that a little bit more interesting, and they'd have to work harder to build conflict for a storyline, and work a little harder, like you said, to justify a trip back to America so that they could come back to America, even if it's just for a few
Yeah, that's
scenes.
why I told Corey.
Yeah.
I guess they got to go back at least once.
Yeah. Yeah. But I loved like we were saying before about showing the scenes from the first movie, the flashbacks to the bar scenes, reminding the audience about that whole sequence of events, and then inserting the Leslie Jones character in there, and I think they did do a great job of de-aging them in that. It was beautiful. The technology is amazing. Yeah,
it did look really good.
Whew, but it's a shame what they did to that dog.
I will say this.
Oh Lord.
His props.
Object.
I've said this 1,000 times, and I'm going to say it 1,001 more times. Comedy is subjective. So even though it was fun to see some of the cameos, it was fun to see some of the original characters again, did not make this movie funny to me. I just the whole time, after the first 17 minutes, when we came back from America, went to America and then came back, I was like, we're just gonna repeat the same scenes, the same dialogue, like some of the same jokes. Like Stacey was saying, I saw it coming like a mile away. And I was like, if I wanted to see this, I just watched the original again. So I understand this movie has a place for some people. It, especially like Brian was saying, he's watching with his daughters, that if you hadn't seen the original, you wouldn't necessarily feel that way. These would be jokes that would be original to you that you could watch and enjoy. For me, and for someone who has seen this movie forward, backwards, 1,000 times, quotes it, is that Velvet? Well, I quote this movie a lot, or at least I used to, that's not what I was expecting from this movie. I was expecting a brand new storyline, some type of advancement, progression in the storyline as far as like the daughters and everything like that. I didn't come here to see a repeat of the original, nor did I expect this to be better than the original. My expectations were really low when I went to go see this movie. I didn't expect it to be funnier than the original, because in my opinion, I don't think there's anywhere to top that. But I at least expected to see something new, and there wasn't enough originality in the comedy, nor in the drama or plot of this film. So to me, it wasn't really that enjoyable. It wasn't horrible, but it just wasn't anything memorable or enjoyable to me personally.
Well, can you look in your pocket there and get that card out? Because your black card is now revoked.
That's fine. That's fine. I've been canceled by a couple of people. You know, I think they're you know, it's funny that you say that, Stacey, because there is this weird situation of where like people think we live in a lot of zeros and tens in society with a lot of pop culture and a lot of things that are out there. You either really like it or you hate it. There is no in between. I'm in the in between, and we need to kind of be more open to be like, well, it wasn't great, but it was. My cousin, she was just like, oh, you're being too hard and da da da. And I'm like, I know it's entertaining, and it can be entertaining to some people. It wasn't entertaining to me. That's why I said it's subjective. Comedy is very, very hard to do. It is one of the hardest genres to do. She liked it because now it's rated PG-13 and she can watch it with her child. That's great.
And that was a turn off for me.
Yeah, that was a turn off for me too. You know, there is a line where Eddie Murphy literally says, I am the M-effing king. Okay, if you can't be an R-rated, don't even try and allude to saying those words. Either say it or don't say it. So he shouldn't even use that, you know, had that line in there. So he's skirting right on that edge, you know? So it's like a reminder to let people know, hey, we're not rated R, you know, whatever.
But our flesh-colored bras on, ladies.
Yeah, but our flesh-colored bras, you know, blah, blah, blah. So, you know, I just felt like, to me, overall, I could have been okay without even having this movie exist. Like, it's one of those things where you took 33 years, okay, to do this film. And I was originally going, I don't know why we need this, but maybe it'll be fun. And for you to take that long and that's what you kind of came up with, I wasn't really satisfied. And I'm not saying that you can't do it, because if you look at a franchise like Bad Boys, okay, Bad Boys for Life, which came out last year, was 25 years later from the original in 1995. Okay, so it can be done. And that Bad Boys for Life made a ton of money. And it was a great film. It was an original story. It had original comedy. They even threw in cameos and brought some characters back, blah, blah. It still was a fun and stayed in that same theme of Bad Boys and that same look and everything like that. So it can be done with a long period of time in a franchise. But you got to do better, I think, with the screenwriting. That's my opinion.
And then,
Well,
go ahead, Stacey.
well, I was just like, you seem to be more professional on it, and mine is just like, because I do understand what you're saying, like the whole that if it's not for you, it's not for you, and I do believe that part of it is just, like I said before, I saw the jokes coming. So if I was going to go by, really, did I find everything funny, like it was just really, oh, this is the funniest thing ever, I wouldn't say that. To me, probably the nostalgia of it made it good movie to me. If I looked at it for like, if I go, okay, what they said at this, if I actually look through like a screenplay, I'm like, yeah, this is not gonna be the funniest thing ever, or this is like the same. Okay, let me look at the old one. It's the same thing. You know, page 34, you got the same scenario. But again, I think for a lot of people who liked it, part of it was just, to me, part of it, I think it's mostly was the nostalgia of it. Yeah. It's just seeing that. Yep. And I think if you come into that expectation of, okay, reliving original Coming to America, and have that as an expectation than anything else, I think you'll enjoy the movie. So I'm not going to say you have to turn part of your mind off, but I mean, I do have to do, and I'm not talking about you, I'm just talking about, you know, if you're not thinking of it as really overly complicated kind of a thing, it's the same movie, just rehashed a little bit. And when you compare it to your point about Bad Boys for Life, it's like, okay, yeah, if you do it to compare to someone, then they could have done better. But I still really enjoyed it just for that. I mean, would I go back and watch it? Probably not. I will go back and watch the original before I watch the second one, that kind of a thing. Because because again, you could tell that this was PG-13 versus the other one that was rated R. But I think, how long did it take to do? I mean, I know it came out this year, but how long did it take? Because to me, it was just felt like, let's throw something out there to just for amusement kind of a thing. I really didn't think it was a heavily thought out, this is the new Coming to America
Funny you
2.
should ask, because Will Smith and Martin were filming Bad Boys at the same time they were filming this.
Yeah.
Really?
So it's funny because there's a picture of them. They were all at the studio at the same time here in Atlanta. And I thought, how neat would it have been if they had just thrown Martin and Will in the background? But I don't know how far along they
That would
were
have been cool.
filming. But they were being filmed at the same time, pre-COVID, no mask, or whatever. So
It had everybody else in the movie. Why not?
that'd be funny,
Would have been funny.
But yeah, I mean, like, had they filmed this during COVID, I may have given them more of a pass, but they started beforehand. They did.
They
They
did.
did. I think, to me, the biggest difference is that she brought up Bad Boys, because like some of the Bad Boys stuff I saw coming, and some of the and the outline of who they are, what they do of Bad Boys is the same. So, they're cops, they're
Yep.
fighting this.
Yep.
They even show you how, like in the first or the second one, they use this type of truck. This time they use this type of truck, whatever. So there's some things that are pretty much the same there too. I just think it was written better. I think, to me, that's just what comes from it, because I didn't have a problem with majority of the acting in Coming to America too. I just think the storyline, again, didn't get me in my 2021 mind. Like, there is a scene where Tiana Taylor, now tell me, Tiana Taylor, who's in there looking like she just walked off a runway in Paris somewhere, and she's singing all up in the mic. You can tell she's a bad bitch, right? And then we get to her where he's like, stay right here. When he's asking her, well, like, what kind of things do you like? Whatever you like. That was not her character. And then they made a mistake of showing us her in the trailer in her little camouflage, little short outfit or whatever. Did that girl look like somebody who was gonna be like, whatever you like? No, she looked like she was there to blow y'all up. Like, I was like, what is this? I felt like that's kind of stuff I don't like. Like, you only made her do that to bring up the first movie.
Yep.
You already have Vanessa here to bark like a dog. We don't
Yep.
need a repeat of that. That was stupid.
Yep.
Whatever. And I felt like it was not the character at all. And I'm like, who are you fooling with this? And frankly, anybody who knows her outside of this would not see that as something she would do, or her. I don't know.
What it was somebody was looking at the original script and was like, "Oh, we missed a line. Let's throw this in here and have Tiana say this." That's what it was.
Well, it goes back to it goes back to that convenience of the story. I mean, they needed her not to be the right candidate for him, to not be the love interest, and they did just fall back onto that. Now, if she was the very aggressive, they could have taken it the other way. She was, oh, you're just too scary for me. That would have been much better. Yeah.
Been exactly that, like, boss chick for 2021. I don't need you. I'm not, but yeah, something. Or she could have even been like a PETA lover who was like, oh, I don't believe in eating meat. Don't kill animals. I mean, that would totally go against everything they obviously like.
Or it might have even been better if she was that really super aggressive, awesome person that she is, and she rejected him.
Yeah. Exactly.
There's. We all always come away from movies saying we should rewrite this movie, because we care so much about these things, and it's disappointing when a film falls a little short. One of the things that comes back to me is the conversation that we had recently about films and content.
Mm-hmm.
And I think maybe the problem here is that we found we came in to watch a film and it turned out to just be content.
Yeah.
And it's not going to win an Oscar.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it might get costuming, maybe, but it might get something, but it's not going to be best film.
Yeah.
Well, Tiana Taylor, I didn't know who she was, so I had no idea that. But you're right on that whole whatever you like. It's like that's not how it came off to me too when I first saw her. I was thinking more of she and her brother are going to a plot and kill him and take over some movie. That was what I was thinking. That was we will hear some
Absolutely.
secret, going over, and then I will poison him afterwards. And that's what I thought. So yeah, that was surprising. I was like, okay, so they're gonna make her into whatever you like. I didn't, yeah, that to me was not believable. It's like that
Yeah.
didn't work for your aunt, so why should it work for
Why
you?
would-
So,
Yeah.
why would you even raise your daughter like that
That's
if
a good
the
point.
fact that-
Your aunt said it and didn't get married. Why would you do this?
and she's still
exact
barking. And like he took away her curse. I was like,
Exactly.
curse? He said no. You should have stopped barking as soon as you left the room.
thing?
I mean, granted, I wouldn't say start barking, but I mean, at the very least, stop.
Stop. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the other a little bit of disappointment in that how awesome they set up Wesley Snipes and next Doria and all of that, and ultimately they all just became pushovers.
Yeah.
It was just it was a little
Obviously,
bit
no.
disappointed. Yeah,
He was no type of ruler. I mean, in real, like they had guns, but all they did was fight with their hands. I don't know if anybody noticed that. Like, I
Yep.
was like, they would have shot.
That's that PG-13.
it'd be like the Indiana Jones thing,
Yeah,
where
yeah.
he just pulls out the gun finally. It's just like I got a gun, bang.
Like the PG-13. I just
Yeah.
have to put that out there. I think
Yeah.
that started to me probably the downfall of a lot of stuff that I probably ended up not really liking that much about the movie because you couldn't really take it where you wanted to do. So
Right.
you just kind of,
Right.
I feel like, and I don't know if that was something, I don't know why it was PG-13. I don't know why somebody said, let's make this a PG-13 movie or whatever. I don't understand that at all.
It's probably just the sexual innuendo, the pool, that kind of stuff that just was borderline. I mean,
But
That's why I
why
was
even?
yeah.
But why not just leave it rated R? I mean, come on. We know Eddie Murphy and his mouth. He's
Yeah.
not a PG-13 kind of person.
And
Maybe.
and to that, it's not like people have to sneak into the theaters to see it on Amazon. So
Exactly.
it'd be all right.
It ain't
So
gonna
I
be on
didn't
Disney
know that
Plus.
was something Amazon or whoever was
Yeah.
like, well, we want something that the
Yeah.
whole family can watch. Because when
Yeah.
your cousin said it, I was like, that's not what I wanted from the movie at all. I mean, I get y'all want something you can watch with your kids, but I think there are a lot of things
Yeah.
out here that you can watch with it.
Somebody was like, I didn't want the Dr. Doolittle Eddie Murphy. I wanted the Boomerang,
Raw.
raw,
Yeah.
Coming to
Raw.
America Eddie Murphy. I don't want the Dr. Doolittle Eddie Murphy. This is not on Disney Plus. So let's just go
The
there.
Haunted
you know?
Mansion.
Yeah,
Haunted
The
Mansion.
Mansion.
I mean, don't get me wrong; those are good movies. I
Yeah,
like
I
Haunted
mean,
Mansion.
That's not what I was expecting. I didn't know it was PG-13.
Yeah,
Honestly, the thing that tipped me off was the women in the body colored
The
bras.
body-colored
I was like,
bras,
oh, okay.
because
Well, they became body color bras because his queen is from America. She wasn't having it. So that's
Right.
why they became.
Oh, okay. Let's nitpick a little bit.
Oh,
Let's
yeah.
nitpick
Here we
a
go.
little bit. Why is it that Lisa forgot where she came from? So you have Leslie Jones coming in there talking to her. Somebody made a reference to something. Lisa is acting like she was born in Zamunda. Like she lost all her credibility
Yeah.
of where she used to come from. I'm like,
It's
Your
been
father-in-law
30 years since
salt,
I've been
pepper,
there.
yeah.
Like she did. She forgot where she came from. They came from the same place. And I feel like she did. She totally forgot. It didn't make any sense. I just thought I know she's been there for 30 years, but come on.
Yeah, that's what it was. Leslie Jones made a joke like heifer say what or something like that. She didn't know what the joke was or something like that. And I'm like,
Mhm.
what? Like your dad is right there.
Speaking of Leslie Jones, now, although I loved how they dressed her and stuff, and this is probably more of a Leslie Jones thing because this is her stick
Yeah.
or whatever. And so maybe, I don't know. I don't like how she has this, I don't want to say ghetto because it's not really what it is, but this way about her is she's always that, I don't know, like, y'all.
Loud, big personality.
Yeah, but in a like slightly crude way, and
Yes.
I don't want to say ignorant sounded either because that sounds very harsh. But that's just kind of, I guess she ate that big. What did she say about the
What are these
caviar?
black potatoes or something
Black
like that?
potatoes. First of all, caviar
black-
does not look like
yeah, black
potatoes.
peas.
I was like, who would say that? Like it's little things like that. I'm like, girl, I know you old enough. You at least seen a picture of it if you've never eaten it. Does it taste like a potato? Like
Right.
there was just like little things that she did.
All right,
I
queen.
just got into my skin little.
Hey, Queen, yeah.
Yeah.
Like I just thought she was acting kind of. It was too much
Yeah.
sometimes.
Her
I
and
don't
Tracy
think it was
Morgan.
realistic. And
Well, I
I
was
hate
gonna say-
Tracy Morgan.
They
I'm just
both
putting
came
that
from a
out.
different movie.
I don't like Tracy Morgan. Please stop putting him in your movies. Thank you. He is not funny. I don't think he's funny at all. He plays this. He's always in uncle mode. Like I can't stand him.
But that's what I'm saying. Comedy is subjective. I'm sure there are a lot of people who find those characters funny. I'm sure they thought a lot of their lines were
Yeah, because
funny.
your mama loves him.
Yeah, my mom did love him. Yeah. And she said, I love me some Leslie Jones, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, I liked her on Supermarket Sweep, but I mean, I didn't like her in this movie. You know?
I loved her on SNL.
I loved her on SNL too.
But you know, it's like I like to see people when they're acting do ranges and get out of that,
Yeah.
especially, you know, because I feel like that's so much of what Leslie has done in the past. Like I would love to see her like as a romantic interest, you know, or something like that. Things that we're not used to seeing her in. I'd like to see her do. I hate when people get typecasted when you know they can do a much bigger range than what they're typically given. You know, it's just like, you know, the fat girl doesn't always have to be your funny friend who has no man, you know, kind of thing. I would like to see some branching out with that. And I felt like this movie could have been it, right? She could have been anything. You know, this was a movie made by Black people, you know, probably for Black people in the most part, you know, to show us in any kind of way they wanted us to show us. And I felt like she could have had, I mean, she could still been that same role, but how she presented it could have been different. Pop Tart, you just went to the bathroom. Holly,
Well, all I can say is the country next door was called Next Door. So if you went into it, that's what they called it. You like, this is the kind of writing I'm going to get. Let me just
and
sit
you know,
back and
Stacey,
You're
enjoy it.
absolutely right.
that is
And that
exactly
was-
what I thought. When he said that, I was like, okay, I know how this goes. You're right.
And I mean, I was actually like, I was watching my tablet, but I always have closed captioning, and I stopped, and it was like, does that say Nextoria or Nextora? And I was like, it does. That's what the next. And I was like,
Yep.
all right, if I've got my mind prepared, this is the kind of movie I'm gonna get.
Well,
Gotta have a
I
little
did
bit.
the same thing. When the son comes back and he's getting in the barber chair. No, when the son comes back and they did the whole bath thing, I started to catch on. I was like, okay, here we go, rehash number one. Okay, then he gets into the chair, the barber chair. She clips his hair. I was like, rehash number two. Okay, and I was like, okay, this is what we're getting. This is really.
She was
what we're
talking entirely too much to him to be the help.
Yes.
I was like, no.
So I'm like, okay,
there's no
here's the new
romantic
Lisa.
interest.
Here's the new Lisa.
Yeah.
I knew it was
Yeah.
gonna happen.
Yeah.
Here's the new Lisa. I
Yeah.
was like, no.
So are we ready to wrap up?
Yeah.
Final thoughts? Stars?
So overall, I gave this movie 3 out of 5 stars. I'm glad that I saw it. I again, for me, the 3 stars came primarily from seeing all the cast and everything, and then also just costume design, which I thought was beautiful and everything like that. So I like that. And the takeaway, obviously, is I just thought the storyline was poor.
I gave it 2.5. It could have been worse. I'm not 100% glad that I saw it. I'm only 0.5% because I'm glad that I saw it, that I'm in company. And I can raise my hand and say that I saw it, and I can form my own opinion. But it's just ultimately not what I wanted. And I didn't think that it was funny. I think I laughed maybe 3 times, and it was probably in the first 17 minutes. So yeah, 2.5 for me. I'm okay with it not existing and me not seeing it again. How about that?
Ah.
Okay.
All right. What? And I know I keep asking it every time until 4 is when you like it and you want to recommend other people to it, or you'll see it again, or.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Um,
about 4. Yeah.
I would say for someone, if you want nostalgia, I would say 4 kind of a thing. I would say personally, me 3.5, just for the fact that I really, for that, if I look at the whole thing about the actual screenplay and actual what what was going on in the movie, I wouldn't rate it that high. But the nostalgia and the feeling I had just by watching it, that's what to me made it a 4. If I would say, if anything, a 4. And also, I mean, the fact I've watched it on the tablet and I was like, oh, I'm going to watch it on my TV, and I haven't done that yet. Make it go back to more like a 3. You know, as it really was it a good movie? Probably not. But the nostalgia I felt just by watching that puts it up. So I'll say more like a 3.5.
Yeah, I agree. I'm in that 3.5 to 4. I rated it a 4, leaning more towards the 4. I did enjoy it sitting with my daughter watching it. Even explaining the references, whether it's references to pop culture or the first movie. It really is content. It's one of those content movies, not film movies. So I think that I wanted this movie to kind of sit with my other 4s in the ratings for that. But yeah, I actually I really enjoyed this this one. There was something about the pacing of this too that really seemed different from the first one too. So it'd be interesting to see you go back to the original one and watch them both together to see that difference. The style of movie making so much different now. So there we got to see that back to back. But I think this is a pretty solid sequel. You know, we compare it to other sequels like this. I think it holds up. So I'm giving it a 4.
Brian, I'm interested. What did your daughters think?
What did my
How old
daughter
are your
say?
daughters?
Oh, the age. Jay watched this, and Jay is 20. Yeah. So she's.
So what did they think about it? What did she think about it?
Oh well, she enjoyed watching it too. I mean, she thought it was funny. I didn't get a review from her, but she didn't walk out. We watched the first one. I think we watched the first one on Friday, and the second one, and this one on Saturday night, the next day.
Okay.
And I basically when I want to show a movie to one of my kids, and it's kind of like homework. I always give them the option to opt out. I don't make them watch stuff that I think that they might like. But sometimes they walk out. You say no, I don't want to watch this. But yeah, and these 2 movies, yeah, Jay stayed. My 17-year-old said, yeah, no.
Back on that whole comedy suggestion thing, there is a scene where I just wanted to tell this. There's a scene where Mr. McDowell is in the kitchen with Eddie, and they're talking about the problems that was going on. And he said he was talking about the difference between McDonald's and McDowell's, and he said this is a McFlurry, and he said the difference between our McFlurry, whatever they called it, and the McFlurry is our sprinkles are on top or on the bottom. Our sprinkles are on the bottom. And I was like, that's a bad joke. And I said, you totally missed out on a really good joke. What you could have said was the difference between our machine and their machine is ours actually works. Because how many times do you go to McDonald's and their ice cream machine is broke?
McDonald's is notorious for that. And I know they'd be lying.
Yeah, they just don't want to make your ice cream cone. But every time you go and try to get an ice cream cone, it is broke. So I was like, that is an easy joke that you could have told. It would have been really funny, but that's the whole comedy thing, right? So I don't know. That's what it is.
Well, that's the problem with us trying to rewrite everything too.
Yeah.
One day somebody's going to take us up on it. Say, okay, you do it.
And it's gonna suck.
Do it. You see how hard it
You know,
is.
like, it's easy to sit here and talk about what we didn't like.
Yeah.
Right. That's the thing. I couldn't.
Where's my pencil?
This movie. I just have little tiny things in my head. I'm like, that could have been better. That could have been better. You know, whatever. You know, I can't write the whole damn thing. So, you know, there are people out there to do that. But yeah. So I think we're good. That was a great discussion about coming to America. Hopefully you've gotten a chance to go out and see it. It is now still available on Amazon Prime. Since it's an Amazon original, it should probably be up there for a long, long time. So go ahead and check it out. Tell us in the comments what you thought. Did you like it? Did you think it was better than the original? Did you think it was as good as the original? Did you think it was funny? So yeah, leave us a comment down below, and we will see you guys next time.
Bye.